Bring it back.
Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Car Mechanic Simulator 2018. So today we are going to be rebuilding a Jeep Wrangler. I've made a bit of a start. I have basically sorted out all the bodywork and sort of stripped off all the suspension underneath, and I have taken the engine out and got it on the stand over there. So I don't know a great deal about Jeep Wranglers. It's a V6, obviously four-wheel drive. When I was taking it apart, got all the transfer case and the differential at the front and rear. So it's obviously four-wheel drive. First thing to do really is going to be dismantle this V6 and get it rebuilt back up. It's pretty rusty, so I think first things first is to get this started. So we'll take off the throttle body and take the intake manifold off to try and get at the engine head. So obviously much newer vehicle than the old sort of Willys military Jeep that we did yesterday. So it's a fuel injection rather than carburetor. A much more modern engine setup. Take off that. So then we've got the ignition coils on each cylinder to then reveal the engine heads, which we can then take off. That one. So we've got so it's a double overhead cam on each bank of cylinders. So we've got 4 cams in total, and there's a timing chain on each engine head. So if we take this one off, we should see exactly the same thing as on the one on the left. Yeah, same principle. Spark plugs in here, and it's a double overhead cam configuration. So let's take the cam caps off. We'll also have to take the timing covers off on each side, so we can get the cogs for the camshaft off. So then we can take the timing chain off, and we can take these cams out. And then we can take this head off to get access to the pistons underneath. So we've got the cam off there. Oh, the timing belt cover looks like it's fairly well blocked in by all the sort of the auxiliary belts. The power steering, got the alternator, water pump, that sort of thing. So we'll probably have to take all that off first before we can get to the cam gears here on the end. But it's got a couple more sort of camshaft caps retaining the camshafts in to take out, and then we can take in the timing gear off. Done. So what have we got in terms of timing gear? What in order? Probably belt tensioner first. Then we'll probably look at the serpentine belt, which has come off quite nicely. There, we've got a couple of idle rollers, a very large water pump, another random idle roller there, and here, and then this should be the alternator, and then the power steering just below that should be the power steering, which it is. So we've got that off, so that should allow me to then take the timing cover off. Underneath here we should have access to the timing chains, like so. That's slightly complicated. Timing chain shoe, and that must be effectively what's retaining tension on each of these chains, so they don't skip and put the engine out of timing. So take both of them off, a little one there at the bottom as well, and then this should allow me to take the cam gears off. And then we should be able to take out the 4 cams without any issues, hopefully, like so, which we can. So let's get these cams out. What are we being retained by? We've got an exhaust manifold on each side, it's got to come off first, and then should be able to pull the head off, which I can. So let's get the head off to reveal the 3 pistons underneath, like so, and do exactly the same on the other side. And then we're going to, after this, we're going to want to flip the engine over, take the sump off to get access to the crankshaft. So let's rotate this thing around. So give me access to the oil pan, the oil sump. Take this off, and then we should have access to the crank, which we do. So now we want to take off, there should be 6 rod caps, 1 for each piston. So if we take these off, we should then be able to pull the pistons out of the engine. takes a little bit of time because there's 6 of them. So get these pulled out, that's one. Excellent, so we should now be able to pull out each piston. This one. 5 and 6. So now we've just got oil filter. So we've got the block and the crankshaft in. So we've just got the crankshaft caps to remove, and then I've just got to take the clutch assembly off the end and the flywheel, and then the camshaft, the crankshaft should be able to be taken out, and then it's just the block which we'll just disassemble as one piece in this game, like that. And in theory, like that. And now if I've not missed anything, perfect. Oh, a fuel filter. There we go, I did miss something. So now we've got that engine disassembled, we're going to head over to the repair bench. Not a particularly exciting part of the video, you just have to briefly watch as I spam through and try and repair everything. I'm not quite sure why they haven't yet just introduced a repair all button, save a bit of time. So we've got that. So probably not everything, well, I know not everything will have repaired, I'm going to have missed some items. I'm pretty sure things like pistons don't repair, so you have to buy them new. And there'll be other bits I'll have to buy new as we go along, so there'll be a few visits to the shop involved. So, as I say, yeah, pistons don't buy new, so that's the first thing, is to buy 6 new pistons and piston rings. I want 6 of them, and 6 piston rings, because obviously it's a V6. So, let's drop these in. Putting a new piston ring on each piston. It's just going to be a complete engine rebuild. It'll be like new once it's finished. Okay. One thing I haven't yet done, which I should have done at the start, was to retain the crankshaft caps. Probably considered a poor form to not do that. So now we've got the 6 pistons in, we shall retain each of these with a rod cap to tie it on to the crankshaft. Get these bolted in. 4. 1 to go. And the final rod cap. So now we've got that, we can stick the oil sump back on, bolt that back into place, and then we're now ready to flip the engine back over. Like that. So we can now reattach the heads, put the cams back in, and then we can sort out all the timing gear. We'll certainly have to visit the shop for most of the timing gear, I suspect. All the things like the idle rollers, many of the pulleys and the belts, the auxiliary belts and the timing chains and things just don't repair. So that's something that will need a bit of work. So we'll drop each camshaft back in. I'm not going to pin them down with the camshaft caps at the moment. I think these gears are going to need, yeah, so we need some new cam gears. Cam gear V6B. I want 4 of them. We also want some timing chains. So we'll have 1 of them, and we'll have 2 of them, I think. Or is it these ones? We'll have 2 of them as well, just to be on the safe side. And we'll probably have 2 new timing shoes. I don't think we need 1 of them. Let's have a look at the other things I'm thinking. Is a water pump pulley, since we normally need 1 of them. And a serpentine belt. It's just got to try and remember which one it was. So it's a V6C or a V6B. I'll try 1 of them. I can never quite remember, and I'm just trying to save us having to go backwards and forwards to the shop too many times. So hopefully that's that. And I also know we'll need some spark plugs, so we should get 6 of them brand new. Okay. Oh, another thing I forgot. Idle rollers. Just get a handful of each of them since they're very cheap. So let's look at the timing side of things. So we'll stick on our 4 cam gears for the camshafts to control the valve timings. Like that. We've also got our new timing chain to drop in there, and then we should have 2, 1 from each of the V's. Drop that in like that. And then we've got our 2 new sort of timing chain tensioning shoes, so the chains don't slip. And then we've got the old cover to go back on. So that's all the engine timing gear now put back into place. And then this is all the auxiliary gear. So water pump, obviously pretty self-explanatory, pumps water. Crankshaft pulley. Aha, I haven't got one of them, so I need a crankshaft pulley. I believe it was that one. So we'll drop a new crankshaft pulley in. So we've got idle rollers, another idle roller there. Then we've got things like the alternator, obviously keeps the battery charged up. Power steering, and another random idle roller there. Then we should have the serpentine belt to go back on. Hopefully I brought the right one. No, I didn't. V6C. Sorry about that. So let's just quickly pop back to the shop and see if we can find the correct one. Can you see where it is? So we want a V6C. V6B. Oh, apologies, I'm just being completely blind. It was right at the start. So let's drop this auxiliary belt back on, nice and new. Belt tensioner. Oh, not doing very well today. Keep forgetting things. Belt tensioner. Let's drop the belt tensioner back on. Excellent. So we're going to come back up to the camshaft parts, and we've got we need to buy a new camshaft. So what was there? I think there's 3 per camshaft. Yep, so that's 12 camshaft caps we need. We want 12 of these. And now we've got a lot of screwing to do. No sexual innuendo intended. So let's get these screwed in. These are just holding the camshafts in place so they don't rattle around or don't jump out of the slots when they're applying pressure to the valves. Okay, so that's one side done. From here we can also drop the spark plugs back in before we put the head back on. Otherwise we'll have to feed them down through the opening. And we'll stick the exhaust manifold back on. Then let's hop back over to the other one. Do the same on this side. As you see, it's amazing how much longer these things start to take when you start to up the number of cylinders. I'm glad they haven't got a V12 in the game yet, otherwise that would take absolutely ages to start to reassemble. That's why I quite like often doing the sort of smaller inline fours or sort of smaller engines, because they're a lot easier and quicker to rebuild. So again, let's drop in the spark plugs. And then we can stick the exhaust manifold back on. So we are missing an oil filter and a fuel filter. So let's have a look at oil filter. Ooh, which one's it going to be? I think it was white, so we're going to go with that one. We'll also get a fuel filter, since we sure need one of them. Let's have a look. So we have also got to put on, put the intake manifold in on the top, and this should allow me to then put the fuel rails in, which I do on each side. We'll put on the new oil filter I just brought. Yep, I got the right one. And we'll stick the fuel filter on around here at the back, which just sort of seems to loosely float. Right, so then we've got the 2 engine head covers to go on. Got the second one on the other side. We're getting there now, not much longer to go on this engine. Okay, so we need new ignition coils. Six of them, one for each spark plug. While I'm here, I should also get the flywheel and all the clutch assembly. since I'm pretty confident that I'll need that. So stick the new ignition coils in, nice and quick and simple. The intake manifold on the top, and then it should just have the throttle body right on the end. Okay, so barring the clutch assembly, that should be everything. So it's got the flywheel on, clutch plate, pressure plate, and then it should just be the release bearing just to tag onto the end. Pretty hard to see because it's right up against the frame. And there we go. So hopefully that is that engine fully rebuilt. I don't think I am missing anything. Looking good. Okay, so I'm going to grab this engine from the frame, take it off from the engine stand, then using the engine crane it will then let me install it back into the car like so. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. There's a few of the little accessory bits in the engine, like the brake servo, ABS pump and the control module like so. I'm not sure if I remembered to put the I've got a new air filter base, didn't get a new air filter though. Let's just grab a new air filter, not a surf filter, an air filter for our costly $11 bargain. Got that in. Air filter cover did not repair. So we want a pretty generic air filter cover, I believe. And then we come to the most stupid point in the entire game here, where we now have to individually clip on the 4 little mini clips onto the edge of the air filter. I still can't work out why they put this in the game. I think they just put this in to make people miserable. So that is all in, and then we've got just the radiator and the fan assembly, like so. Oh, and the battery to get it started. So that's all good. So we've got all of that assembled, so now let's hoist the car up and have a look at all the suspension setup underneath. What have we got and what are we missing? So first thing first is probably to put the gearbox on. And there should be a starter motor there, just to drop in. And the exhaust to take it away from the engine to the main exhaust. Okay. Then suspension wise, let's start with the sort of front cross member. Obviously the main bit. Got a kind of quite a complicated suspension setup, this Wrangler. So we'll drop the rubber bushings in on each of them, and then we'll start with the steering knuckle. And from there we can build up the disc brakes. Should have a drive shaft to go in here as well. A little bearing. I've not got the bulk of the setup in yet, so I can't put the drive shaft in until I've got the transfer case connected to the front differential. We'll sit the front drive axle in and the transfer case. That should then allow me to put the front drive shaft in, which it does. Which should then allow me, to stick the front drive axle in. Like so. Then we've got the 2 suspension arms, so it's like a double wishbone suspension setup. I'm curious to see how accurate this is. I don't really know a lot about Jeep Wranglers to know how accurate the modelling is. This is actually core game content, not modded game content. So it stands a chance of being a bit more accurate, but even though sometimes I find the developers tend to sort of cut corners on some of the modelling and things aren't always sort of as good as they should be, but even so it's still pretty good fun. So to do the tie rod, and then that's pretty much that side done, hopefully. So let's hop over to the other side. Let's do the same setup again. We'll start with the knuckle to build up the discs. Oops. Oh, I'll miss and click the wrong thing. There's the wheel hub. And put the bearing in, and then we should be able to have the front drive shaft. Like that. disc brake, and then we should have the pads and the caliper. If we look around this side, got the suspension setup and the upper suspension arm. It's going to be dropped in. I have forgot to put the 2 rubber bushings in on this side of the car. Should be another one here. There it is. Very easy to forget, but pretty critical all the same. The tie rod, and then the little front sway bar as well. Just leave the tyres off for the moment. Okay, let's work our way around to the back. Should be a little bit easier on the back. The rear suspension cross member again. Again, 4 bushings, 1 in each corner. I might just put these in straight away at the beginning, because otherwise I fear I may well forget. Have I run out of bushings? Oh, this is my last one. So I think I'm likely to run out of bushings. So we'll put the rear hub in. Oh, I'll have some small rubber bushings. Now let's build up the rear discs as well. Put this on. The rear drive axle. I haven't yet put in the drive shaft from the front of the car through to the rear, so that's something else that's got to go in along with the exhaust. Brake caliper to go on there. The rear suspension arm. Get that bolted in. And the spring cap. Quite a few parts to put on here, but we're getting there. Once we've got this done, I need to buy some more rubber bushings. Yeah, once we've got this done, we can take it over to the paint shop, see if there's any cool liveries that can be applied to the car, and then we can go out for a little bit of a quick test drive. As a general rule, I've had quite good feedback about these type of videos. People seem to be enjoying sort of like the car mechanic content. I mean, if you are, please let me know in the comments. It's really good to sort of find out what works well, what works badly on these videos, what can I do to improve, what do you like, what don't you like, all that sort of thing. It's really good to find out. I really do enjoy getting feedback, even if it's bad feedback. It's I'd rather have some sort of constructive feedback than nothing at all. And if you really like it, you can even subscribe, and that would be even better. Okay, so we've got that on. So we've done one side of the car. Now it's got to do the same thing over this side. Again, just dropping the suspension arms in. A small bushing there, and then just have a lower suspension arm. Which will then allow me to put the rear spring on it. Like that. And then the spring cap. Rear shock absorber. Rear suspension arm. Little bushing hidden there. Get that screwed in. The wheel hub. Get all this bolted in. Then we've got the disc, the caliper and the brakes, and all that bump. Drop this on. Little sway bar end link, easy to forget. And I think that's the rear setup done there. I don't think I've missed anything. So from here we've got the drive shaft, obviously a pretty critical part in any four-wheel drive car. And then we've got the exhaust, catalytic converter, who uses them? Oh, and a damaged exhaust pipe. We need a new one of them. That was just a straight Bogo standard exhaust pipe, so let's give this a shot, see if this will mount okay. It will. Awesome. Okay, so we've got all the sort of underside of the car set up. We've got the four-wheel drive system, we've got the transfer box connected to the rear differential, so we should have four-wheel drive on all four wheels. So let's just quickly pop round and put on the new set of wheels I made up earlier. I do sort of try and get these slightly prepared before I start recording, so things like the wheels and stuff I get made up, because it's pretty boring just sitting for 5 minutes watching me putting tyres and doing wheel balancing. But if you've not played this game much before, it's pretty basic. You just go over and use the install the new tyres onto the rims, and then you have to balance each tyre as well before you can put it on the vehicle. So let's get the tyres on. What's going on here? Oh, there we go, it's a critical part. I didn't put the wheel hub bearing and the rear drive axle in. There we go. Always forgetting something. Let's get that. Okay, so I think that should be about everything. So let's see if we can move the car to the paint shop. Hopefully I've not missed any little rubber bushings or anything silly like that, which will prevent it from starting. Can be quite annoying. So let's see if there's any cool colours. I'm not entirely sure there will be for this. Ah. Wow. Land camo. Sand. Oh, that's kind of nice. Oh, in like a sort of a military-esque. Just sticks a star on it. Oh, that's like a. It looks like a Russian military vehicle or something. Let's go that. That looks. I'm not sure if I particularly like that. Yeah, go on. That's probably one of the more disgusting paint jobs, I would say. But still, let's just drop this. Move this car now to the garage front. Garage entrance A. Pop out, got to put a bit of oil in the engine, I've just remembered, because otherwise it won't start, or if it does start it will wreck it. Oil fill there, put some oil in it, and then let's take this thing out for a spin. I'll go around the test track, see how this thing handles. Not very well, I suspect, is going to be the answer. Let's go and have a look. Oh, we have a... I never knew there was an off-road test track. Well, let's give the off-road test track a go. This is the first time I've ever tried the off-road test track, so I'm learning as much as you are, so don't expect much. And I'm only using a keyboard, so driving anything like this is almost impossible. Oops, I'm tackling this with a little too much vigour. Oh, this is all very good fun. So, well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. Something a little bit different with our little Jeep. As we test its extreme uphill four-wheel drive capabilities. Oh, it flies up there, look. Ooh, oops. Oops. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. I've certainly enjoyed making it. Slightly different vehicle from normal. Obviously, adding in all this Jeep DLC, which has recently been released, should give us access to new engines and things like that, which can be used in other modded vehicles going forwards. So it's nice to see that the game is continually developing and still being having new content produced by the developers. So if you've enjoyed this video, please think about liking, commenting, subscribing. It really helps the channel out. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.